Hello, 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 soul friends, and welcome to this episode of Shine Your Soul Light podcast, where we are sharing the voices of visionaries who are leading in the golden age. My name is Mary Gooden. I will be your host. Truly, my mission is to support others in aligning and defining with their ever evolving mission. I do so with courage and authenticity as the heart of humanity. I ask that we all just take a moment of stillness and silence to close the eyes and open the heart. May we anchor in love, compassion, and grace, and may we receive wisdom, guidance, and inspiration. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Joining me on this fabulous episode today. I like to say it, we are in the midst of Podapalooza, one of the most extraordinary times and very exciting, but I am blessed to be sitting before Tessa Lynne Alburn. She is a feminine energy coach, also a podcast host of her own for women who are seeking, these are my magic words. Y'all already know this: freedom, connection, and having their voice in their life and their business. I love you, Tessa, already. I could go on, but with decades of experience leading live and virtual events, she is here to support, to help women create results. Tessa now helps women express their true voice and be heard and show up in their life the way they really want to. And you know me, let it be easy, let it be fun. Tessa, what a blessing it is to be before you. Share with the audience, if you would, where you're calling in from, and in your own words, gosh, you have a magical life. I know that you do. Why have you chosen to show up for women in this way?
I would love to share those things. Firstly, I am temporarily in San Diego and soon will be in Baja. But right now I'm in the greater San Diego area for a few days. And why I do this, I had my own story, of course, of being shut down, set aside, told not to speak unless it was to be in service of the adults. And I knew that I had some sort of gift, some sort of something to bring to people, but I thought, well, maybe I'm broken and maybe God doesn't want me to do that in this lifetime. I literally was thinking these sorts of things at age 5. And I'm just like here to serve others, but not like be out there at all. And of course, I realized at a certain point in my journey and my growth that was all crazy and just programming, really. And when I realized, oh, I'm just as valuable as other people, then I found a way to not just serve others, but to participate, right? And to show up as an equal. And so that's been a big part of my journey. And the voice has been a big part of it also. I was actually trained as a singer. And interestingly enough, I knew there was like this thing even in my family where my mom didn't really want me to sing. She wanted me to play some instrument. And I realized later in life that that was because she had tried to make it as a singer. And her family basically said, that's enough, you're not good enough. And so it was always hard for her when I sang, and I didn't know that for many, many years. I mean, she loved it and hated it at the same time because it brought up her own, what she felt were her inadequacies. But beyond the voice was a way that I got to express myself. And it morphed, it changed, it somehow became like ceremonial singing. And people would ask me, why aren't you singing in a choir or something? I'm like, it just doesn't resonate. It doesn't feel real to me. It's not who I am anymore. And nobody got it. So I just stopped talking about it. And instead, my voice started to show up in other ways, in the ways that I was choosing to serve humanity, the ways I was choosing to show up as a leader. And so I believe now, or at least currently where I am, is that there is a value to each of us to express the different facets, if you will, of our light, of our soul light. And so that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to midwife, to usher in mostly women, because most men have some voice in the world, have had that. And I do find that the women like to kind of be in my love bubble, where they get to be with like somebody who can see them for who they really are without expectations that they're used to. So that's what I'm about, is restoring soul parts, helping women feel whole again. And that's not to say I wouldn't work with a man, but it is a rare, brave man that does this with me.
They are rare and brave, aren't they, sometimes? It's
Mm.
magnificent, and I appreciate you sharing those moments as we oftentimes fall into that, and I know a good bit of my audience, we talk about this in relational pieces a lot, that we're serving someone else's dream in some way, shape, or form, or, I see that a lot just as I was raising my own children, how parents would live vicariously in that way, or protect in that way, or just over control. Let's just get the word out there, right?
Oh
Over
my goodness,
control the
yes.
situations. And we still, there's so many people still out there, especially women, that are still finding themselves in these over controlled places. Like you said, don't speak unless you're spoken to. Big girls don't cry. Climb the ladder with your mouth shut. Emotions don't belong here. Which I know that I love this because I feel everything, right? That you just are like Sedona is to me, like the bosom, the mother that just supports these women to be seen and be heard for themselves. For the, that's just, I love it. So thank you. Thank you for Tessa for doing this for humanity, for us, for our voices. I too have a passion to share the voices of others, these stories. So what was it like for you during your time of coming out and shifting? I imagine, did you shift away from singing at some point? What did that feel like for you? And for those around you that had been, hoping that maybe you'd stay a certain way or be a certain way.
Oh my goodness. Yes, so I was a singer and a flutist, and that was my undergraduate. I had both. And when I was like, oh, I think I'm going to go live in New York City for a while and do something else, become an actress, or do something there with performance, they were like, what? You're going to do that? And there wasn't any support for me to do that, but I managed to go, with my $22, my way too big suitcase for getting up and down the stairs in New York City. But I just knew I had to bust out, and it was scary, but I was passionate about it. And then years later, there was another transition for me where I got out of any kind of performance really, and got into healing. And there were some other things along the way, like working in law firms and stuff like that to support myself, because I was always like trying to find work that I could do and not be bored out of my mind or hate everybody, and also have the freedom that I wanted to have in my life. So I found ways to do that. And then because I was also, by then in my early 30s, I'd made many deals with God not to kill myself, because I was just depressed. I had, an overwhelming depression that followed me around for a long time. Sometimes I could deal with it, by drinking too much or whatever. But I knew this cloud was with me, and I think I had made like my last deal with God back in LA. But I remember that day, like if my life doesn't improve, like this, I'm giving it this much time and that's it. You better be listening. You better show me the way. And the way started to come to me. I had to get really tough and really committed to sticking around, even for that amount of time that I made that deal with God about. And eventually I found the right kinds of support, the right kinds of emotional support. And they weren't forever people, but they were people on my journey. Like some of them were a one-time deal. And a friend of mine, I was talking with her because I was having physical issues. I'd been in like 6 car accidents, 5 or 6 by that time. And I was like, what's going on? Clearly there's something wrong with me because I'm in all these accidents, like what's happening? But people were hitting me. And so it was confusing. Like, why is it happening? And I don't know that there's anything I could do about it. And I felt powerless and scared. And so I was going to this body worker, for the lack of a better explanation right now. And we became friends. And she was helping me to unwind some of the patterns of my body and this, that, and the other. And we were having just a conversation one night. And she's like, we're talking about all this deep stuff. And she's like, I want to tell you about this book. And she mentioned this book by Arnold Mindell, on the soul. And I read that and I was like, oh my gosh, there's more to this. And then I found Sandra Ingerman's book on soul retrieval. And I was like, yes, this is it. Like, I need this, and I wrote Sandra a letter, and she wrote back to me. She's like, I'm so sorry, I'm going through something and I can't do it right now, but here's some people, you can go to. And when I experienced that community, but it's a bunch of layers. When I got into that community, I realized, oh, wow, I'm not a total freak or a weirdo. And I can have these waking dreams that are actually really profound and help me get myself back. And so I followed that system for a while. I actually met Sandra and studied the basics of core shamanism with her. But then that was a whole other paradigm that my family certainly didn't know how to talk to me about. One of my family members is pretty fundamentalist. They're like, that's no good. And it was kind of scary. They just couldn't understand it. And then before they know it, I'm going to something called the Hoffman process. And they're like, oh no, it's a cult. I'm like, but it was so healing for me. And even before, leading up to that, I had been helping other people through being able to access. So I trained my brain to access another level of envisioning, if you will, on behalf of other people. And that's kind of part of shamanism. What they call it divination. Some people might call it psychic, but that's not what it was for me. And I was helping them. I would receive these dreams for people, and it would make sense to them, and it was healing for them. And I wound up going to this process, and recognizing that even though I was serving in this way as a healer, I wasn't feeling connected myself. I was like, I'm supposed to do this as a job. It almost felt like penance. You're supposed to do this the rest of your life and not expect anything in return. And I had carried that since I was really little, thinking that that's what my purpose was, to be here and just do what other people need me to do. But when I did the process, I learned that I am connected, and I reclaimed that, and I was able to have my own strong connection again. And so since then, I've been melding these things all together. The soul retrieval work with expression and authenticity and leadership. And then I went on to work with Hoffman. So that's why I'm talking about it mostly. But I worked there for 8+ years. And one of the things that happened, which was happening in my life in other ways also, but I always pushed it aside, people were going, well, lead us. Please do this thing, be in the front of the class. And I'm like, I'm terrified. I want to throw up. And eventually I wound up facilitating a weekend of other leaders. And I realized I actually do have some gifts there. And so people were like, you've got to do this, and I listened. And it was then, that was a big turning point for me. I started to value who I really was and get past the perfectionism and all the rules about what that's supposed to look like. And then something came alive in me where I was like, oh, I have to have my own business. That's what that's going to mean. And so I went down that path and became an entrepreneur.
What a great story. And I'm going to circle all the way back. There's so many neat little aspects to this. Why did you have all those accidents? Could it simply and purely be just to meet this woman, right? To get these body works done? This is how my brain goes. And that, like you said, I love how you shared with us, there's lots of people we get to meet along the way, all of us in life, whether we think we're choosing on purpose or whatever. And that, sometimes it's a one and done, and it's okay. It's okay. Sometimes it's 6 years, sometimes it's 25. But it's okay. It's all part of the process. And I just love listening to your story. And I guess the way that I put things into the process and, to emerge from this place is this beautiful flower, to be the seed of service. But in that program, you're right. To be the seed of service, because I felt like this in my life, and I imagine some of my audience has too. We do have these gifts, but at some point or another, we feel as though we're not allowed to, they don't have value, or that we can't collect resources for them, or they're not worth money. This is a gift, and I should share it with the world and not expect anything in return. And I think a lot of healers, medicine women, brilliant and beautiful souls, once you've broken that barrier and going through your story and seeing how you got to do those things by different invitations and different ways that you stepped out and said, yeah, I'll do it. Or people started seeing you because you started seeing you. It's just magnificent. So thank you for sharing all of that, Tessa. It's a beautiful unfolding of just how I believe life magnetizes towards us also. And it does feel a little bit like, I didn't know I want to get on stage. Wait a minute. Am I ready for this? And it's all about, like you said, you have to come back to self. You have to see the value in yourself. And once you've done that, there you are, the lighthouse, this beacon of light. But to start where you started, it was like a big no. Don't worry about what you need. Serve everybody else.
Yes. And even more than that, it was dangerous. If I took the light, then it was like, okay, now perform more for us. But only do it like this, and only play that instrument, or only. And if you don't do it the way we think you're supposed to do it, you're going to be, in trouble, young lady.
Young lady.
Yeah.
I felt that. Aren't we so lucky to be young ladies, though?
Yes. While you were speaking, I thought, there is this piece, like that thing where people were like, keep doing it, be in front. When are you going to do it again? And I think what was so healing for me as a person, and it also helped me become the leader that I am, is that magical, wonderful gift that we can receive when we're witnessed and we're mirrored. And I didn't get any of that, as a kid. And a lot of people don't. And a lot of the people that I work with didn't get it. And so, even part of my acting experience was to learn the Meisner technique. And it's all about mirroring. And it's where I found one of my closest friends in life, 40 years plus. And that experience of really being seen, really being heard, and just having it mirrored back with care was profound, right? And no expectations, just kindness, just like exactly what that person's experiencing. And then when we rise up into new levels or identities that we're taking on, to have that mirroring back, to have that witnessing, for somebody to go, wow, that was really cool what you did. Oh my gosh, it's worth its weight in gold, those moments. And there's just there's so many people like running through my mind right now, mentors, like moments here, moments there, like, oh, I just happened to be working upstairs or downstairs from where Lee Glickstein was, who does speaking circles. Because I would freeze on a stage. I mean, it was sad. And So I got to go to speaking circles and suddenly like the lights turned on, right? So all these little pieces came together. It wasn't easy though. I want to say that. So it required a lot of faith and courage, faith that something new was going to happen and could happen. And it was terrifying. You know, there were all kinds of things that got in my way, lots of roadblocks, toxic relationships, toxic workplaces. There was a lot of stuff that I still needed to work through. And I was also getting some good support at the same time to take my little baby steps and get there.
It's so magnificent. Life is such a journey. And when we can start to, like you said, you've brought all these pieces now together. Once we can really look at it and see how the journey has revealed each and every moment, like you were speaking of, it's just beautiful. And yeah, there's some times where you really have to stay committed and faith, right? I like to talk about that in my book that I'm working on. It's flipping the switch. We've got a ball of energy. We can look down or we can look up, right? We can anchor into faith or we can anchor into fear. But it is a choice every day, every moment, sometimes, every second, sometimes. I would love for you to share with the audience as we start to wrap up one piece of advice that you might have for them and how they can move towards you.
I believe the piece of advice that I'd like to share today is around your own authenticity. So whether you're leading in your personal life or in your community, or you've got, big tribe following you around, or you want to have a big tribe, it really, I know we can overuse this word, authenticity. And I think it's because we're only touching the surface. And what we need to do is go a lot deeper to what really is authentic to us. What do we take a stand for here on this planet as a human who has one lifetime to give it as you are now? Now, maybe you have other lifetimes, that's fine. But as you are now, what is it that you will take a stand for because it really, really matters to you? And that could be love, right? And that could be truthfulness or compassion or whatever, any value that's of what I would call a virtuous value. And then begin to let that show more, begin to be intentional with it. How can I lean into that value today? Maybe it's really simple, like if love is the value that I stand for, love in the world, then how can I be love? How can I show others that I love them today in our conversation? How can I just be loving, right? So to bring that and start doing that, and then that will also grow in your business. And you can, in your business and whatever your projects are, align yourself with your values. The rest is somebody else's, not yours.
So true.
And how people, yeah. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead. How can people contact you? I know where you were going. I just wanted to honor you. I love to, it's important that we celebrate you. Everything that you've said is such a celebration. So
thank you. So people can get in touch with me by going to tessafreegift.com. Tessa, TESSA, freegift.com. And I change it every now and then, but you will get some kind of a soulfully connected gift to help you, whether it's activate your alignment with your soul or to just listen more deeply. That's the best way to reach me. I am also on, social Facebook and Insta, but don't ask me to say what my handles are because I always forget them.
That's all right. I'm going to put that link in the show notes so they can get with you. My final question, one word, Tessa, of how it feels for you to lead in this golden age of love, of truth and transformation.
Inspired.
I love that juicy word. So inspiring, isn't it? Thank you. Thank you for being willing to share it all and to shine in the way that you do. Um, because as you said, it takes a lot of guts and a lot of faith and a lot of glory to stand up and use our voice, and for you to not only do it for yourself, but to hold space and be a leader and an expert for other women to open their mouth and claim their life. I bow in reverence. So thank you, audience, always for showing up, always for listening. Until we get to meet in this beautiful and collective energy once again, I say keep shining your own light. Keep sharing your truth and your love with the world. Bye for now, everyone.